Hi, good afternoon. Good morning for those who are connecting from Europe, and perhaps good night for those that they are in the States or also in Hispanoamerica. So it's a pleasure for me to be here today with you, okay, in this Global Virtual Exchange Summit 2024. So we are going to talk about cultural exchange and global citizen. And this conference, this talk, I will try to explain you how empowering global minds, harnessing COIL for our students' development. So it's a pleasure for me to be here with you. Thank you very much for the organization for this university.
So let me introduce you first.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. Go ahead. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you joining us the last keynote presentation today for the Global Virtual Exchange Summit 2024. This summit provides us a dynamic platform for exchange of insights, exemplary approach, and innovative research in the realm of virtual exchange. It aims to foster collaboration and share knowledge amongst dedicated educators, practitioners, administrators all over the world. So our summit this year is particularly focused on the theme of cultural exchange and global citizenship. So my name is Alvin Tang. I represent Global Virtual Exchange Organizing Committee to honorably invite Professor Francisco Suay to share insights on empowering global minds, harnessing COIL for student development. Let us call Professor Suay as Paco, as many of us know its name. Professor Paco is a distinguished professional with a degree in economics and PhD in economy and business, specializing in marketing. He served as the coordinator for COILs at CEU universities, where he is also a marketing professor. Paco is a leadership facilitator for CCL, a CEU digital transformation ambassador, a software MIE expert, and certified in Lego Serious Play. Paco has been a collaborator with business schools for over 20 years, contributing to a master degree programs and nurturing future leaders. On the international stage, Paco has held the presidency of DukeNet's University Network and has collaborated with various prestigious institutions. His global engagement underscores his commitment to fostering international educational partnerships and enriching the academic community. So before we dive into this last keynote presentation, I would like to remind everyone that we encourage your participation. Please feel free to submit your question in the chat box or in the Q&A box throughout the session. So we will have a dedicated Q&A segment following the keynote speech for around 15 minutes. So please take note that the session will be recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube afterwards and to share with more audiences. Kindly mute your microphone during the session. So without further ado, let us give us a round of applause to welcome Professor Francisco Suay to the virtual stage. Professor, please.
Thank you so much. Very nice presentation. So thank you for introducing me. We are going to talk about the importance of this global mindset, how to empower our students and prepare them for the future. So we are going to connect this part with the COIL. So going ahead, we are going to remark some ideas about me. I'm the COIL coordinator at 3 universities, private universities in Spain. We have 4 universities and we cover all the territory in Spain. And also an international coordinator and former president of DukeNet, that is a network that we have here in Europe, a small network. We are about 25 universities, and I have my bachelor in economics, but I specialized in marketing communication some years ago, and for more than 20 years, I work in marketing and sales companies. So after that, we are going to talk a little about this idea. The presentation overview, the importance of a global education, why it's important nowadays. what is a COIL, and we are going to connect this global education with the COILs, and what are the benefits for students and also for teachers. That's also important, that we need to understand that it's not only benefit for us, it's also a benefit for our students. Also, how to implement the COIL into the curriculum. We are going to talk a little about that, and how to prepare students for this global work environment. That is we can say the summarize the ending part. And a present for you is going to be like a checklist for a successful COIL. I will share with you this presentation, so you don't need to take any notes if you don't want. And we go for the first idea. Why is important this global education and to teach our students in intercultural competencies? First of all, we need to check some tips about discussing the importance of global education. We understand global education that involves teaching students to understand and address global issues and become global citizens. For them, it's very interesting to gain awareness on diverse cultures and promote a sense of global citizenship. In second, we can highlight the globalization has increased the interaction between people from different cultures. For example, today, okay, we are people connected from different countries, from different areas of the world. So that is very important for us. And in the firms, the companies, that's also important. So that employers value global mindedness and intercultural skills in the workplace. So for some years, I managed the internship of my students, and I discovered that in the last 10 years, companies are checking students, are need students, and checking the curriculum that they have some experience. For example, in Europe, for us is very important the Erasmus program. So where the students move to other countries, either learn and they improve this intercultural skills. Also, helps students to have an open mind and critical thinking. So, to have a global education and intercultural competence education, open the mind of our students and open the way that they are going to think about the globe, about the world, about the issues. And the COILs use and help us develop all these skills. All these skills that normally are called soft skills in many of our countries are the most important for the labor market, for the workforce. So that's the part that a COIL can develop. And to better understand the intercultural competency and the elements of intercultural communication, I'm going to share a video with you. If you prefer to watch the video with your own phone, you can take this QR code and it's going to open you the link to the YouTube. In other case, you can watch the video with me talking about intercultural communications.
The world today is characterized by an ever-growing number of contacts, resulting in communication between people with different linguistic and cultural backgrounds. This communication takes place because of contacts with the areas of business, military cooperation, science, and education. In all these contacts, there is a communication which needs to be constructive as possible, without misunderstandings and breakdowns. There is, therefore, a need to explain the manner in which intercultural communication skills enable greater effectiveness in personal and professional life. So what is intercultural communication? It refers to the effective communication between people, workers, and people of different cultural backgrounds. It also refers to communication between people whose culture perceptions and symbol systems are distinct enough to alter the communication event. an academic field of study which seeks to understand how people from different countries and culture behave and communicate and perceive the world around them. There are four elements of intercultural communication. Number one is the perception, which are the beliefs, values, attitudes, worldviews, and social organization. Number two is the verbal process. It is the ways in which cultures employ symbols to portray things and experiences. Number three is the nonverbal processes. It is shared thoughts and feelings of bodily behavior, time, and space. And lastly is the contextual elements, which are business, education and healthcare, tourism, and personal relationships.
Okay, don't worry if you don't remember the four elements. Okay, the four elements, the first one is perception. The beliefs, the values, I normally explain my students that is the backpack that they have, how they view the world, how is the social organization in our country, in our culture, and they need to perceive, they need to know, okay, but it's quite impossible to know all the values, all the beliefs that you have in different cultures. But the most important is to know that we have different values and different perhaps a worldview that people from other countries. That is the perception. The second one is the verbal processes, is the way that we communicate. We know that normally English is the official, we can say, language all over the world for communication in business, and normally also in the universities. We are going normally to develop COILs in English. You are working with countries with different languages, but also sometimes you can you can develop the call with the same language. For example, Spanish. We talk Spanish in Spain, and we have the majority of the countries in Hispanic America that they do. But there are also some difference in the way that we process the verbal language, because sometimes there are different expressions, there are different words, and we need to understand that part. The nonverbal processes, how we share thoughts and feelings, also the approach between people, the behavior about time and space is very complicated for us, for example, from Spain to work with countries that are in the north of Europe, because they are very restricted with the timetable. And for us to be 5 minutes late is not to be late. And for them is to be very late. So we need to understand also that part. And finally, the contextual elements. In which moment are we developing that connections, that interactions? If the business is in education, is on site, is online, it's not the same way that we need to behave online that on site. So all that things, that a perception, the verbal processes, the non-verbal processes, and the contextual elements complement these intercultural competencies. And I prepare a slide with some references for you talking about that. Some of them are from the European Union, of others are from the UNESCO, and also you have the link to some videos on YouTube and two models that I think they are very important to know more about intercultural competencies. That is the cultural factor from Hofstede and also the culture map from Erin Meyer. So as I told you, I'm going to share with you this presentation, and you have here the slides with the references to go more in deep in the cultural competencies. And now we move to a COIL, and we try to explain what is a COIL. I know that in the last presentation, in the last 2 days, you have different talks and conferences about COIL and different examples. But to summarize, we can say that a COIL is two professors from two different universities and different countries that they are going to work in an existing subject, in an existing course, developing a project. This project could be a topic that relates to the two subjects, even if they belong to different disciplines of areas of knowledge. For example, we can do a COIL between two classes of marketing, for example, and it's quite simple to find the main goal of the same objectives to develop that COIL, but also imagine a COIL that they are going to work students from architecture and students from law, for example, or from teaching, and they are going to join, for example, to develop a project, architect project, where people are going to explain this architecture students what they need. And they need to build, for example, an office, or they need to build a school or something like that. So they could be different disciplines of areas of knowledge. And also the students work collaboratively and online to achieve the learning outcome from the two realities. So it's also very important that the students can compare from the two different countries, what are the differences and also the similarities. And why to do a COIL? Okay, I think it's very important because we are going to develop intercultural and also digital competencies. As we are going to work online, the students need to work in remotely, perhaps with Zoom connection that we have today, with a Padlet, with some tools that they need to manage. We understand that they born with a laptop, okay, or with a phone, and they use normally many hours per day, but sometimes they don't know how to work collaboratively between different countries. And also we have different times. So also they need to check that things and that digital competencies will be very important for them. Also, we are going to prepare, as we told before, the students for this globalized workforce. So perhaps they are going to work in their own country, but for sure they are going to make business with other countries, with people from other companies in other places. Normally, we buy a lot of things from China, from Chinese companies, and we need to make connection with Chinese companies. And also, perhaps we are doing business from Spain with a lot of European countries and also Hispano-American countries. So we need to know that, and we need to prepare the students for that globalized market. Also promotes language skills. If we're going to talk in English, it's also very important that we need to adapt to this common English that we can use in the area of business. Allows also international experience without leaving home, and that means that is accessible to all the students. In Europe, it's quite simple to travel because we have also Ryanair, a low-cost company, and for example, with less than 200 euros, similar to $200 American dollars, you can travel all around Europe. But it's not easy, for example, and it's very expensive to travel to other countries like Hispano-America, like Asia, because we are very far away, and also the flights are very expensive. So the COIL normally is a door, an open door to enter in these international experiences without leaving your house, without flying, and also without many expenses, because COIL is free. Also generates a great motivation of students. The students need to have more motivation in some courses, in some subjects. And to do a COIL, for them sometimes is funny and it's totally different. So it's a good idea to have these COIL projects. I remember the first COIL that I did with one of my students, with one group. They were complaining all the time about the timetable, about the task, about the goals. It was quite stressful to work with them in that COIL, but it was my first time. It was 5 years ago, and finally I decided to go ahead. And the next year, with the same group, I tried another COIL. And the first day, the first class that we had at that moment, the first thing that they asked me is, Paco, the COIL this year, which university and country is going to be? So they were interested in the COIL. They were complaining, but finally they had very nice time. They enjoy, they learn. So the next course that I had with that students, they asked me for the COIL. And also in the majority of our universities, we have some strategic objectives about internationalization. So the COIL is aligned totally with this strategy that we can have in our universities. How is done? I always explain my professors when I train them to do COIL that the COIL must be very flexible and simple. So there are two words that you need to understand perfect and to have always in your mind when you are going to work with COIL, that is flexibility and simplicity. Try to do it as much simple as possible and be very flexible. Flexible to change the time, to change the learning outcomes, to change the task, and to adapt to the situation. Also, if you are negotiating with another professor from other university, how to do the COIL, be flexible in that way. Okay, in the hours that we need to invest or the time or the task or everything. We normally do like a workshop or seminar or activity that is included, and also you can grade, you can evaluate within a course. So normally for the students, it's very important to know what are the tasks, what are the deliverables, what are the seminars or workshops that are going to be great for the course. So I normally use a COIL between 20 and 30% of the total grade of that course. Also, very important to mix the teams of international students and to have an equilibrated number of students. For example, 2 students from one university, 2 from the other one. We cannot have like 5 students from one university and 1 from the other one, because it's going to be very stressful for that one student to work with 5 different from other country. So be flexible in that, but try to compensate and mix students from both universities, more or less same number of students. And flexible with the time, between 4 to 12 weeks. And also some of my professors ask me, can we do a COIL only for 3 weeks? Of course you can. Okay, you must be flexible, and perhaps it is going to be only 3 weeks COIL and you have a course that is near 20 weeks, the grade, the percentage that you are going to give for the evaluation of the COIL must be lower than perhaps 20%. So you need to negotiate, you need to talk about all these questions with your partner from the other university. The phases. It's very important to understand that you need to do the 3 phases. Okay, the icebreaker, I think, is one of the most important, is the way that you start the COIL. So the mutual knowledge is very important, and you need to do some activity to break the ice. So it's going to help this intercultural relationship and communication. So it's the time that the students need perhaps to connect, to develop some task between the first 2 weeks, during these 2 weeks, and in that moment, they need to start the relation. Okay. So sometimes they are going to open a WhatsApp group, sometimes they are going to work, for example, with Teams, with Padlet, with some kind of platforms but we need to give them some time and some task to start that knowledge and to start knowing and discussing each other. Then we move to the project. The internal organization of the teamwork is very important, and the theme, okay, the goals, the objectives is the part, but always remember that the intercultural outcome must be present. So for them, it's going to be very important to understand and to compare between both countries. For example, how people behave uh, when they are buying some products, or how they behave. We talked before about architecture is going to be perhaps different in each country, and they need to compare and to discuss how these cultural differences. And this final thought for me is also very important, to ask the students to write an essay, to have with them some debrief on what they have learned, and they can give some feedback and also to analyze intercultural knowledge. Normally, I ask my students in this final part to do an individual essay with only one page explaining what did they learn and what they will do different in another COIL. And now, I would like you to ask, how do you learn? So please, take your phones, go to this QR code, and it's going to open a Menti platform. And you can also use the code if you go directly to menti.com and you use the code 76090733. It's going to ask you three very simple questions. You have three options, okay? How do you learn? I'm going to stop by moment this presentation. I'm going to open the Menti. You have like 2 minutes. You don't need more time. Okay, and how do you learn? You have the first answer is from experience, like doing things. From others, okay, you learn, we can say, from the social learning. And the third is you learn from the formal structured education. You are going to see the results on live. So at the moment you are voting, we are going to see your I'm going to give you 2 minutes more. Okay, I think we are more or less ready. So we have more or less same people that learn from the experience doing things, that people that learn from experience, from formal learning. So this is the way that we normally learn, and also our students do. Okay, there are a lot of studies talking about that 70% of the time people answer that they learn with the real problem solving, that they learn on the job, they learn doing things. So that's very important to encourage real world problem solving, to promote reflective practice with the students, to provide stretch assignments, and to support also the learning through failure. So if they fail, no worry, try again. So also you can ask your students doing the COIL that they can do it another time, sorry, that they can improve the project, that they can improve the document that they are doing. So for that is very important that you need to have some weeks and you need to check how the students are doing the different tasks. Normally, the 20 is because of the 20% of the people learn and prefer this social learning, that learn from other people. For example, the mentorship and the coaching is important in that way because we can learn from others. We can learn from other partners, and also we can learn in collaborative learning. So the students also in the COIL, they learn from other students because they are working together. So they need to build these networks with other students from other countries to develop their own skills. And 10% is formal learning, like we can say a structured education. So the formal training programs. And many times also during the COILs, we used to have mirror classes. That means that we are going to have a lecture, a class, that we are going to explain something to the students, and it's called mirror because I connect and I'm going to explain the students from the other partner university, and the other professor is going to connect with my students and explain another thing related to the COIL. So also the COIL could be very nice to complete this path of learning. 70% of the time is doing, practicing. 20% is connection with others, the social learning, and 10% is going to be this formal structured education. Also, you have here some references. The first one is to the CCL organization, and it's an article explaining that they do this research with professors and with businessmen in the United States, and they have this rule that 70, 20, and 10%. And also there are other two articles that you can read more about this way of learning. So if that is the way of learning, that must be the way that we need to teach 70% of the time. The students need to do things 20% of the time in the network, in the teams, working together, and the 10% of the time, perhaps some lectures and classes from us. So benefits for students is different, is engaging, connects students from other countries and cultures, and sometimes it's funny. They learn content in new ways, also develop digital and intercultural skills that we talk several times today, and also is highly valued in the job market. I always explain my students to put in the curriculum vitae that they do this kind of projects. So for sure, the person that is going to interview them for a position in a company could ask them, oh, COIL, what's that? Can you explain me more about that international project that you did? And that would be a different from other students that they are applying for that position. Benefits for us, for the professors. So we collaborate in an international environment with partners from different universities, but also could open a door for you to collaborate in future projects. So I met people from other universities in a COIL project, and after that we start collaborating in research, in doing another projects. And also is a project focused on innovation and teaching improvement. So it's very valuable in our universities normally. And it's important also that you can attend this kind of conferences, okay? You can present and you can go to conferences and summits and introduce your COIL projects or your innovations that you are doing. And also for sure is going to expand your knowledge and also your methodologies of teaching. I always explain here in this moment that a buyer persona or a customer journey map I did in the business when I was working in marketing, but normally I didn't teach my students that part. And through a COIL that we developed with Tecnológico de Monterrey in Mexico, we start teaching our students what is a buyer persona and how to do a customer journey map. So how to implement the COIL into the curriculum. So it's very important that you need to start with clear objectives to define the learning outcomes that you want to achieve through the COIL. Also, you need to choose the right partner. So sometimes it's important and you need to have some feelings with your partner, because also the teaching style and also the objectives must be aligned with yours. To design meaningful collaboration projects, you need to develop the project that require active collaboration and critical thinking. And perhaps you need to have the first moment that you are doing a COIL, a lot of meetings talking about the project to design, okay? But perhaps you can use that similar COIL for many years, for 3, 4, 5 years. But the first time you need to invest sometimes in design the project. Also think about the technology. You need to integrate some technology, so platforms, we are going to work with Microsoft Teams or Google Workspace, we're going to work on Zoom or in which platforms. Also, remember to incorporate always continuous assessment and feedback to the students. If they need to improve the task, if they need to change some things, we need to give them some assessment. And also, I used to do in this part, a peer assessment. So the students have like an internal evaluation inside the team to talk about the development of the project. So that I think is also very important for them. And we arrive to the end of the talk. And if you remember this part that I explained you, that we need to prepare students for a globalized work environment. And this is like the summarize of this talk. It's very important to foster intercultural competencies, to encourage our students to engage with diverse cultures through international projects like collaborative online international learning. They're going to provide them the opportunities to work in multicultural teams. So for them, it's going to be very important. Also, they're going to enhance digital literacy. So equip students with the skills to use a wide range of digital tools and platforms that they are commonly used in international business and collaborations. For sure, to encourage language learning. If we need to talk in English, okay, we need to improve our language skills. And also, particularly those that are widely spoken globally, like also, for example, Spanish. And sometimes we are working with other countries that they are not Spanish talking, that they need to improve their Spanish. For sure, okay, we need to prepare them to collaborate and to work in teams for teamwork. So incorporate group projects and collaborative activities into the curriculum that requires students to work together with a common goal. That's the part that they are going to find in the company. So better to train them for that. And the present for you, okay, this checklist for a successful COIL. First of all, topic and title of the work. And remember, okay, it must be something engaging to the students. The side groups of students, you need to discuss the number of students from each universities. Then we can talk about the specific dates, the semester, the period of the work for the students, the deliverables, all the milestones that they need to have. Contents and extension of the work, the official connection, we can say, the moment that we are going to connect all together, for example, the first time with the start, with a presentation, an intermediate control, the final exposure. There are some moments that we need to discuss, and for sure, the evaluation system. We need to share the evaluation system, and it must be very, very similar. I prefer to have the same for both universities. So that's all for me. Thank you for your attention. And it's a joke, but you can ask everything that you want. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Francisco. This is such an enlightening presentation to understand more about how to conduct a COIL, as well as how to break the ice, how to encourage the students' participation, etc. So now we will open the floor for questions. Please feel free to propose your questions, whether you might choose to raise up your hands, or you may also type your question in the chat box or Q&A box. So we're welcome for questions. So perhaps I will ask the first question to Professor. How do we break the ice? Sometimes to us, our Chinese students are very shy in the personality, and also they might be worried about their language skills and how to, and they are also in the process of building up the confidence. How to build up the confidence for your students, and what's the situation in your countries?
Okay, normally people from Spain, they are more open, perhaps. They are more familiar, and they like to work with people from other countries. But it's true that there are some cultures that they are more shy, for example, from Asia, or also from people from the north of Europe. And the first thing is that we prepare the teams, the professors. So we don't allow the students to do the teams by their own. So we choose the students and we do the teams. And for that, I think it's very important also to know more or less the students. If you know the students because you have them before in other courses, much better. And what I do normally is to pass a questionnaire to my students to know them better, what they want, what they are studying that course, what they want to do the career in the future, something like that. Then we mix the students in teams, and for the icebreaker, I used to do a Padlet, an open Padlet where all the students can post, and we choose normally some tips or some ideas that they like to. For example, one of them, they need to share the pets that they have at home, and they need to take a picture with the dog, with the cat, and they need to share online, okay, explaining, okay, this is my cat, this is my dog, his name is Yuppie, and we used to go for a walk all the morning, something like that. And for them, it's quite easy in Padlet to post because they used to do in social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, and to ask them to do something like that, a short video, a short post with a picture from the pets from home or something like that, for them is quite simple. All times, for example, with the best things that they like of the pictures or the movies, the music that they listen to, something like that, that it's not necessary that that part is connected to the objective of the COIL, because we need to remember that the most important is the intercultural competencies. They need to start working and to understand each culture. So if we share the pets, and from Spain, it's very simple, we can say, to have a dog or a cat at home. But for example, in a COIL with Colombia, that they were in the countryside, they used to have horses, cows at home, not only dogs or cats. So it was like crazy and amazing for my students to join other students that the pet at home is a horse or is a pig or is something totally different that we have here in our houses. So that could be a very nice idea to start breaking the ice and to start collaboration. And also can be very something similar. Okay, explain your city, explain your normal day. What are the best ideas that you have for a weekend in Valencia or for a weekend in Hong Kong? So, and they start talking about that. And I used to do always in an online platform. So all of them can see, can watch, can read, and can comment to the others' ideas.
That's a very good idea. Starting from the things around them first, the habits, hobbies, and the pets, and the things around them first. Yeah. Are there any questions from the floor?
I would like to come back to the three parts, okay, the three phases. Remember always that this part of the icebreaker is important, and it's not mandatory to have a concrete relation with the project. The second one is the project, and the third one is this the brief essay talking about what they have learned. I think also that the third part is very important for a student to have some moment to write and to put on a paper what they feel, what they express during the COIL, and also if there are not good things, also if they need to improve for the future, because perhaps sometimes the language skills, they are not good enough for the students, and they need to improve the English or they need to improve the Spanish, and they need to know that. So the moment that they need to write something and to think about what happened during the COIL, I think is also very important for them. And they appreciate so much. Could be very simple, like one page for this final part that we can say that is the brief or the feedback of the situation.
Yes. So see if anyone have any questions. Perhaps I asked another question. Is it better to start in their year one or later senior years? Of course, if it's better within the 4-year education, there might be more than 2 times for such COIL activity. But do you have in mind how many times of COIL activities they should be included in the 4-year study?
I do. And it's a very nice question, very important, I think also. I think the first year, I think that the students arrive to the university, for them, it's very stressful. To arrive to the university, everything is new. So they start the teamwork, they start knowing each other in the class. So it's much better not to do a COIL in the first semester. So we used to do COILs in our university for the second, third, and fourth year. And also the 4th year, we have the last semester is more focused on the thesis, on finalizing. They have also the internships, and they have many times a lot of duties, a lot of tasks to do. So the second and third year, they are perfect. The 2 years that we have in the middle. And I think that with only one COIL is not good enough, because normally the first COIL that you have is always happen with all the things that we do normally. The first time, perhaps it's new and you like it, but you don't totally learn, you don't totally do everything in a correct way. So it's much better to have at least 3 COILs. I prefer my students to have 3, about 3 COIL experiences doing the complete bachelor. For example, the first one in the second year, 1 or 2 in the third year, and perhaps the last one in the 4th year, in the 4th semester. But I think between 3, 4, less than 3, perhaps they don't know too much how it works in intercultural environments with multicultural teams. But with more than 5, they are going to be boring for them because they do many times before. So much better to have between 3 and 4.
Like 3 and 4. Okay. And with repeated efforts, they will be getting better and better. Yeah.
So they are going to improve from 1 to the second time, the third one, but after 3, 4 times, they are going to feel that it's the same. Okay. Also, you change the universities. So I used to do that. So in the design of the curriculum, my students in marketing, they have a first COIL in the second year, in the second semester, in the spring semester of the second year, in Spanish, normally, because they are normally with Colombia, with Mexico, with some countries, Hispano-American countries, that they speak Spanish, so they don't need to improve English so much. Then in the third year, they have 2 COILs, one in each semester, and now in English, of course. And in the 4th year, they have in the first semester, in the 4th semester, another COIL. And that COILs normally in English with Europe and also with Asia or with United States. So they need to work with people from different cultures. So at the end, they work with people from Hispano-America, from Europe, from Asia, from United States. And they have more or less the different areas of the world with different COILs.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Francisco. Since in the interest of time, we would like to conclude this session here, and we're hoping to see each one of us again in upcoming session, parallel session later. We'll have another session starting from 6 p.m. So thank you very much, Professor.
You're welcome. See you. Bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you everybody for your attendance.
Thank you.